It's right about time to bring you up to speed with what's happening globally and in Nigeria. Let's begin with Russian ships hold missile drills in Atlantic. Peace eludes Manipur despite BJP's defeat over violence. Russia, Belarus starts second phase of nuclear drills. US ends ban on arms to Ukraine's Azov brigade. And Hunter Biden conviction disrupt Trump's persecution claim. The Russian Ministry of Defense has said a Russian naval frigates and a nuclear-powered submarine have conducted missile drills in the Atlantic Ocean while on their way to Cuba. The exercises by the submarine Kazan and the warship Admiral Gorshkov involve firing high-precision missiles at mock enemy targets from a distance of over 600 kilometers, 370 miles, it said in a statement on Tuesday. The Admiral Gorshkov also conducted training in recent days to repel an air attack, the ministry said. They are part of a group of 4 Russian vessels due to arrive in Cuba on Wednesday. Cuba said last week that such visits were standard practice by naval units from countries friendly to Havana and that the ships carried no nuclear weapons and did not present a threat to the region. The journey would nevertheless be closely watched by the United States at a time of acute tension with Russia over its war in Ukraine. The U.S. does not see the move as threatening, but the U.S. Navy will monitor the exercises, a U.S. official said last week. The Admiral Gorshkov is armed with new Zircon hypersonic missiles. The weapon has been designed to arm Russian cruisers, frigates, and submarines and could be used against sea and ground targets. Russian President Vladimir Putin has touted Zircon as a potent weapon capable of penetrating any existing anti-missile defenses by flying 9 times faster than the speed of sound at a range of over 1,000 kilometers. The Admiral Gorshkov and the Kazan are accompanied by 2 support ships on their visit to Havana, which Cuban officials said reflected historically friendly relations between Russia and Cuba. The Cuban Foreign Ministry said the Russian warships will be in Havana between Wednesday and June 17th. It is not the first time Russia has sent its warships to the Caribbean, but this week's visit follows Putin's warning that Moscow could respond to Ukraine's Western allies, allowing Kyiv to use their weapons to strike targets in Russia by giving similar weapons to adversaries of the West world. Many residents of Vengnom, a village in Manipur State's Jarabam district bordering Assam in India's northeast, receive a phone call of distress warning of ongoing violence. The incident at Vengnom summarizes the ethnic tensions in Manipur, where clashes between the predominantly Hindu Meitei community, who are in a majority, and the mainly Christian Kuki-Zu tribe have so far claimed over 220 lives and displaced 67,000 others, according to the government data. The Vengnom attack followed tensions in Jiribam district after the decomposed body of Shegolun Singson, of 21-year-old from the Kuki-Zu community, was exposed weeks earlier. Singson had been missing since May 14th. On June 6th, 2 days after the major opposition India National Congress Party trounced the governing Bharatiya Janata Party BJP in both the parliamentary constituencies in Manipur, the dead body of the 59-year-old Soibam Sarak Kurmo Singh, a Meitei, was found by the locals after he had been missing for over a week. The Meitei alleged that Kuki-Zu tribals were behind the murder. Kuki-Zu leaders denied involvement, blaming the killing on rival Meitei armed groups instead. As the news of the arson at Vengnom spread, Meiteis living in the area feared a counterattack and requested to be moved to safety by the authorities within hours of the evacuation to relief camp Lamtei Konu, a Meitei village, was set on fire. According to a statement by a Kuki-Zu group, the burning of Lamtei, Kono and 2 other Meitei villages was termed as retribution against Arambai Tengol, who initiated these violent attacks. Russia and Belarus have started the second stage of tactical nuclear weapons drills, part of Moscow's effort to discourage the West from ramping up support for Ukraine. Last month, Russia announced the exercises after French President Emmanuel Macron said he will not rule out deploying troops to Ukraine under certain conditions, and that the United States and some other NATO allies said Kyiv was allowed to use Western supplied weapons on targets in border areas of Russia. The first exercises took place last month and focused on preparation for nuclear missions and how to arm and deploy missiles. In the drills that began on Tuesday, the Russian Ministry of Defense said Russia and Belarusian troops will undergo joint training in non-strategic nuclear weapons used in combat. It said the exercise was aimed at maintaining the readiness of personnel and equipment to ensure the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the alliance between Russia and Belarus. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said the situation in Europe was quite tense and that such drills and maintaining combat readiness were important in view of the hostile decisions and actions by the US and its allies and their daily provocations. Since sending thousands of troops into Ukraine in a full-scale invasion on February 24, 2022, Russian President Vladimir Putin has repeatedly warned that Russia could use nuclear weapons to defend itself in extreme situations. Last year, Russia moved some of its tactical nuclear weapons into Belarus, which also borders Ukraine and NATO members Poland, Latvia and Lithuania. Belarus President Alexander Lukashenko has relied on close ties with Russia and provided his country as a staging ground for the war in Ukraine. Tactical nuclear weapons include air bombs, warheads for short-range missiles and artillery munitions are meant for use on a battlefield. Usually, they are less powerful than strategic weapons, huge warheads that arm intercontinental ballistic missiles and are intended to destroy entire cities. Russian President Vladimir Putin has noted, however, that even Russia's battlefield nuclear weapons are much more powerful than the 2 atomic bombs they used dropped on Japan in August 1945. Now, the United States has lifted a ban on providing weapons and training to Azov Brigade, a controversial Ukrainian military unit that played a major role in the 2022 defense of the southeastern city of Mariupol. On Tuesday, the U.S. State Department said in a statement that there had been a thorough review of the current Azov brigades and no evidence of human rights violations have been found. Washington emphasized the present unit was different from the volunteer militia that was set up in 2014, drawing fighters from far-right circles and criticism for some of its tactics. The U.S. had barred the regiment from using its weapons, citing the neo-Nazi ideology of some of its founders. The Azov Brigade, which was absorbed into Ukraine's National Guard as the 12th Special Forces Brigade, is among the country's most effective and popular fighting units, and its current members reject accusations of extremism and any ties with far-right movements. Washington said the original militia had been disbanded in 2015, and a State Department spokesperson also noted Azov's heroic role in the 2022 battle for Mariupol. The lifting of the ban is likely to boost the brigade's fighting capacity at a challenging time during the war against Russia's invasion, with Ukraine struggling amidst persistent shortages of ammunition and personnel. Azov soldiers played a major part in the defense of Mariupol, holding out for weeks in the Black Sea port city's vast steelworks despite being low on ammunition and under relentless attack from Russian forces. In May 2022, the city fell to Russia, but Azov soldiers have been hailed as heroes, becoming a symbol of Ukrainian resistance in the face of Russian aggression. Each week, there are rallies calling for the release of hundreds of Azov POWs who remain in Russian captivity. Moscow has repeatedly portrayed the Azov as a Nazi group and accused of atrocities, but has provided little evidence to support its allegations. It designated the unit a terrorist group in 2022. Moving forward, an unprecedented 2 weeks of legal drama that yielded historic convictions of an ex-president and a sitting president's son have also produced a clear political takeaway. The survival of the rule of law in America and uncorrupted justice may depend on the choice voters make in November. The country's divergent possible paths under President Joe Biden or presumptive GOP nominee Donald Trump were highlighted in the way both men, their families, and their political operations reacted to the twin trials and verdicts. Biden made no effort to interfere in the prosecution of his son Hunter with either his executive authority or with the media megaphone of his office. He allowed his own Justice Department to secure a guilty verdict Tuesday that could result in jail time for the recovering addict and hurt his own 2024 campaign. It will accept the outcome. I will accept the outcome of this case and will continue to respect the judicial process as Hunter considers an appeal, the president said after the jury found his son guilty of lying on a federal background check form and possessing a gun while addicted to or using illegal drugs. He has already said he won't pardon his son. In his first reaction to the verdict, Hunter Biden didn't attack the judge or prosecutors, simply saying he was grateful for the love and support of his family and blessed to be clean again. The Biden's comportment contrasted with Trump's reaction to his own trial and conviction nearly 2 weeks ago in his hush money case. The ex-president lashed out at witnesses, prosecutors, jurors, and the judge. He claimed that this was done by the Biden administration in order to wound or hurt a political opponent. He blasted a rigged decision despite the fact that the Justice Department was not involved in the case brought by the Manhattan District Attorney. Since then, Trump has been warning he'd use presidential powers to punish his political opponents and bend the legal system to his will. On more stories, Mexico's violent election sent asylum seekers to U.S. border. Norma, a shop owner and local coordinator for a political party on the outskirts of Mexico City, regrets calling the police. She called authorities in November to file a complaint about noise coming from the building next door to her house. The building was being used by a rival political party, she believes. Norma doesn't know what resulted from the police probe, but the 35-year-old began receiving intimidating threats. Strange men began to approach her in the street and warned she didn't have to leave long. She said she tried moving to a relative's house but noticed that she was being followed on the way. When that rival party won the municipal elections 2 weeks ago, Norma decided to leave town, she said, fearing that she would be further targeted. After the vote, it got ugly in my city, she said. In southern Arizona, she was found just moments after she and her 3 children, 13, 8, and 2 years old, climbed across the low fence that separates Mexico and the United States. They are among many migrant families on the border, saying that they were fleeing the fallout of Mexico's bloody national elections, which saw dozens of political candidates assassinated and hundreds threatened on the campaign trail. All said they hoped for asylum from the U.S. government, and all said they had not heard of a new executive order by U.S. President Joe Biden blocking asylum requests from most people illegally crossing the southern border during periods of high volume. On Israel-Gaza conflict, ceasefire talks falter as Hamas replies to proposals. On Tuesday evening, discussions to bring about a ceasefire and hostage deal that could stop the war in Gaza were thrown into doubt when Israel characterized a Hamas response to the latest proposal as a rejection, precipitating a blame game between the two sides. Hamas had submitted its response to Qatari mediators, proposing amendments to the Israeli proposal, including a timeline for a permanent ceasefire and complete Israeli withdrawal from Gaza, reports said earlier on Tuesday. Talks are anticipated to continue via the Qatari and Egyptian mediators in coordination with the United States to see if an agreement can be reached, the source added. After submitting its reply on Tuesday, Hamas spokesman and political bureau member Osama Hamdan said, according to reports, that the group was committed to achieving a ceasefire. Our response is a clear reaffirmation of our commitment to the ceasefire and withdrawal from Gaza, a commitment we have consistently upheld, Hamdan added. Hamas leadership quickly pushed back on the claim as an attempt to back out of the proposal. Izzat al-Rishq, a member of the Hamas political bureau, said late on Tuesday the response of Hamas and the Palestinian factions to the truce proposal was responsible, serious and positive. The response is consistent with the demands of our people and the resistance and opens the way to reaching an agreement. The tensions are surfacing at a sensitive moment. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is currently on a diplomatic swing through the region, trying to secure agreement on the plan first unveiled by President Joe Biden 11 days ago. In African scenes, Malawi mourns Vice President Saulos Chilima's death. The people of Malawi are in mourning following the death of the country's Vice President Saulos Chilima. He, together with 9 others, died in a plane crash in a forest in the north of the country, where they were due to attend a funeral. Chilima, originally a businessman, was vice president for 10 years, initially under former President Peter Mutharika and then under incumbent President Lazarus Chakwera. After falling out with Mutharika, Chilima formed his own political party, the United Transformation Movement (UTM), in 2018, calling for radical change and reform in the country. He ran for president the following year as the party's candidate and came third in the polls, which were won by Mutharika. However, the election was subsequently annulled by Malawi's top courts because of widespread irregularities. In the 2020 re-election, Chilima stood as Chakwera's running mate despite being from different political parties and together defeated Mutharika. On Tuesday, UTM officials criticized the government, saying its response when the plane went missing had been slow. They also questioned why there appeared to have been no transponder on the aircraft. In making the announcement of Chilima's death on Tuesday, the president described him as a good man and a patriotic citizen, but there had been reports recently of friction between the two men. Chilima said, as part of the alliance, Chakwera had agreed to step down after his first term and allow him to run for president in next year's election. Last month, however, Chakwera announced that he will run for re-election in the national polls due to take place in September 2025. Now we take a quick break, and when we come back, I'll bring you more stories from Nigeria. Don't go away. Welcome back. As Nigeria celebrates Democracy Day, Tinubu lauds Abiola, others on Democracy Day. President Bola Tinubu has hailed Chief Moshood Abiola, the winner of the annual June 12, 1993 presidential election, and other heroes of democracy, including General Shehu Musa Yar'Adua and Pa Alfred Ruwen, amongst others. On Wednesday, in his Democracy Day broadcast, the president also celebrated other heroes, including Chief Anthony Enaharo, Chief Abraham Adesanya, Commodore Dan Suleiman, Chief Arthur Wanko, Chief Chukwuemeka Ezefe, Admiral Ndubisi Kanu, Chief Frank Kokori, and Chief Bola Ige, and other eminent Nigerians who made great sacrifices for the restoration of democracy in the country. The president urged Nigerians to beware of elements who might want to undermine the present democratic dispensation. He acknowledged the economic hardships in the country and expressed his commitment to supporting the citizens. The president stressed that the sacrifices of General Alani Akinrinade, Professor Bolaji Akinyemi, Professor Wole Soyinka, Chief Ralph Abioha, Chief Cornelius Adebayo, and many others should never be forgotten, noting that they endured the hardships of life in exile for at least 6 years. He also recalled about how pro-democracy activists at home, including Alisa Agakpoba, Femi Falana, Abdul Oro, Senator Shehu Sani, Governor Uba Sani, Chief Olufale, and other National Democratic Coalition leaders like Chief Ayo Adebanjo and Chief Ayo Opadokun maintained pressure on the military leaders while some of their comrades were in exile. Tinubu remarked that their sacrifices and the invaluable contributions resulting from their selfless dedication can never be repaid, nor will they be forgotten. And finally, on the news, Power Minister says electricity subsidy hits 1 trillion naira. Adebayo Adelabu, the Minister of Power, announced that the introduction of Band A with a higher tariff has reduced electricity subsidy to 1 trillion naira from approximately 3 trillion naira. On Tuesday, while speaking at public hearing on electricity tariffs organized by the House of Representatives Joint Committee on Power, Commerce, National Planning and Delegated Legislation in Abuja, Adelabu highlighted the financial constraints faced by the federal government. Adelabu explained that without an addition in electricity tariffs, the subsidy will have surged to nearly 3 trillion naira, a figure the government could not afford. To stop amassing further debts, the ministry implemented a model where customers Band A will pay higher tariffs to offset the subsidies. He stressed that even with the surge in tariffs, the cost for consumers remains lower compared to the expenses incurred from using fuel and diesel. Adelabu assured that President Bola Tinubu's administration targets to boost the situation for Nigerians, stating, "We are out making things better for Nigeria and to create industrial development through our local manufacturing and energies needed to do this." He reiterated that the addition in tariffs is intended to make life more affordable, not more difficult. Another look at the top stories. Russian ships hold missile drills in Atlantic. Peace eludes Manipur despite BJP's defeat over violence. Russia-Belarus starts second phase of nuclear drills U.S. ends ban on arms to Ukraine's Azov Brigade, and Hunter Biden conviction disrupt Trump's persecution claims. And that's all in the news. Once again, happy Democracy Day, Nigeria.